News channel.
Good morning, it's 6:33. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Ellie. Here's a reminder of our top stories today.
Well, the United Nations chief is under fire. Antonio Guterres drawing anger from Israel after saying the conflict with Hamas didn't happen in a vacuum.
Operation Cleanup begins as communities up and down the country look to repair their homes after Storm Babette left devastation in her wake.
And still to come, Britney brings out her memoir. Will you be taking a read? Yes, I do have a copy.
And there's a copy.
The very good thing about this book, it would take you about 3 minutes to read because it's got very big typeface and very big gaps between the lines.
And I'm going to pinch this. Do you think I can?
Yeah, well, you probably read it in a commercial break.
Read it a day,
darling.
yeah. It looks quite good. And we'll be talking to Perez Hilton about this, the celebrity... Celebrity, what would you call him? A gossip guru?
Yes.
Showbiz guru, a little bit later on in this hour. So look forward to that.
Oh, lovely.
Yes.
Let's see what's making the problem. What are you laughing at? Dawn Neeson's here causing problems. The Guardian leads on the United Nations calling for an immediate ceasefire in the conflict with Gaza to end epic suffering.
The Daily Mail carries the headline, Anger as UN boss attacks Israel over Gaza crisis.
The Eye also focuses on the UN chief's speech, where he condemned clear violations of international law in Gaza.
My nightmare goes on, reads the front of the Times, as it tells the story of an 85-year-old hostage released by Hamas last night.
The Daily Star claims Putin has planted fake news on bed bugs to try to scare us. She's going to do slightly better than that, won't he, I think?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that terrified over a bed bug.
Yeah, well, people have been in a frenzy about it, to be fair. Yeah, you did say that yesterday, didn't you? You did say that. We're joined now by Kevin Schofield, political editor of HuffPost, and Dawn Neeson, former editor of the Daily Star. Very good morning to you both. Very, very good to see you. And Kevin, let's start with this viral video. I think we can share it with you now. It's of this hostage who was taken by Hamas and actually shakes hands with the man who took her hostage. Let's take a look at it.
It's okay, let's go. It's okay, let's go. Yes. So you go with this one. Okay. You go with this lady. I'll go with the other one.
And she says shalom as well, doesn't she? Meaning
yes,
peace.
Remarkably powerful moment. She's a peace campaigner. 85-year-old, yeah, 85-year-old Yocheved Lifshitz, and her husband, her 79-year-old husband, he was taken hostage as well, although he is still in captivity. But I mean, yeah, as I say, it's a powerful moment. Obviously, it's a propaganda exercise by Hamas as well to be releasing. I mean, it's great that she's been released, but she talks about how her nightmare is still going on. She still remembers, obviously, what it was like to be taken captive. She says that her legs were tied, that she was taken from her home, she was put on a motorbike, hit with a wooden pole, didn't break her ribs, she says, but obviously it was very painful. And we're seeing this drip of hostages being released, but clearly still, hundreds are still being held by Hamas, and the conflict goes on.
I can't help but, is it the cynic in me? Can't help but wonder if we read too much into this video, in the sense that she's 85, she's been held for 2.5 weeks, she's clearly dazed and not knowing quite what's going on as she's being released, and she's just saying goodbye to someone. I mean, it's no criticism of her.
No, of course
not. But I just wonder if we read too much into it.
I think maybe that's the case, but I mean, what I find shocking as well is it's interesting how various news outlets have covered it. You've got The Sun go on their front page going, my hell inspired as well, the Hamas tunnels. The BBC originally went on, I was treated very well as a headline, which they have changed. So it's interesting on how various outlets are reporting it, and the papers are all sort of like pretty much on the peace gesture. Which, did you say, Stephen? I mean, this video has been released by Hamas as well. So it's like, well, they would do that, wouldn't they? And as Kevin's just pointed out, this lady and her husband have both worked for peace their entire lives. I mean, they used to work very closely with the Palestinians and help them as much as possible. So the irony of them being kidnapped, and, you know, the other part of this, of course she would turn and say, you know, shalom, peace, because her husband is still there. Let's not forget that. Her husband is still there. So she's leaving her husband, who is also in his mid-80s. And my mum's roughly the same age as this lady. And I think of what she's been through, flung over the back of a motorcycle, beaten with sticks, and then made to walk through these tunnels, which are 300 miles. I'm not suggesting she walked 300 miles, but... yeah, a woman in her mid-80s with health issues. I keep imagining my mum going through that. And it's horrific. So, yeah, the fact that she turned around and said, shalom, peace, is amazing. That's what she's done all her life. And it just goes to show how evil and utterly distressing what is going on both sides of this, because ordinary people are suffering. It really is.
I think it says more about her, though, doesn't it, than it does about Hamas.
Yeah,
Of course. She has stayed so true to her own values.
It's
she's been a peace activist her whole life, and even then, after everything, as you say, Dawn, everything she'd been through, such an ordeal, that she could turn and say peace.
The one thing I did think, looking at the video and looking at the stills pictures of her in hospital, was if you looked at pictures of her from, 16 days she was in captivity, you look at the picture of her on her kibbutz with her husband, happy, smiling in the garden. She looked like a very healthy, chubby-ish woman of a certain age, and you look at her now, and she
totally drawn,
very ill, lost loads of weight,
and such a traumatic. I mean, let's face it, you're never going to get over that. You're going to remember that forever. It's so traumatic, and you know, notwithstanding the fact as well that her husband is still being held hostage. So it's obviously great that she's been released. However, as she says, a nightmare goes on, and you can completely understand that.
How we do a gear change from something as horrific to that to something which is light-hearted, I don't know, but we're going to try. We're going to try with a little bit of Family Guy, believe it or not. Have a look at this.
Millions from Netflix for no one knows what.
Put it with the rest of them.
Babe, time to do our daily $250,000 sponsored Instagram post for Del Taco.
I shouldn't have left the made-up nonsense.
Oh, I wonder who that could be about then, Dawn.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, made-up nonsense. Is you're talking about, well, his family or the books they've written since? Yeah, look, in all this darkness, I think we can have a laugh, can't we? I mean, we need a laugh. We need some escapism. It's not taking away anything from the horrors that are going on in Israel and Palestine. But this is after South Park. Remember South Park?
Oh,
in February, where they did their
the
Harry
international privacy.
Yeah. We want our privacy. Which camera am I looking at? But this is South Park. No, this is South Park. This is Family Guy, and the main character, Peter Griffin, is sitting in a bar with his friends and thinking of ways he can make more money. And he goes, "I'm going to go it alone, just like the Sussex." And then that cuts to that scene there. I mean, because and the butler, as you've just seen, comes up. You know, sir, you're millions from Netflix for no one knows what. And it just nails it, because what are they being paid millions to do? No one actually knows.
No.
Implying they're lazy, work shy, and maybe just in it for the money, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, you like to think they'll be able to laugh at themselves, that they'll see the funny side of this, but
I doubt it.
I'm not sure.
I'll tell you what I do find interesting about this is, because Family Guy is so huge.
Yeah.
Is it, will this impact their reputation in the US?
Well, it's interesting, actually. It shows that this is how they're viewed by, you know, a satirical comedy like Family Guy. I think it's quite telling, isn't it, that maybe the Americans are a bit sick of them. Maybe.
I think there's been a few chat shows as well that have ribbed them, haven't there? So I think the tide is turning.
It must be said that it has been a little bit quieter on the Harry and Meghan front.
Well, they lost their Spotify
weeks, they
contract with the podcast, because that wasn't very successful. I'm not sure, what is it they're doing for Netflix? Is it a documentary?
Oh, I don't know.
This other documentary's not about themselves, isn't it?
Oh, I
It's
see, right.
Yeah.
Have any of them been produced yet? I haven't seen.
But there's another book to come.
They're getting paid a lot for it.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Look
lovely.
forward to that. Lovely. Look, we're going to take a short break because still to come, we're talking to gossip guru Perez Hilton about Britney Spears' bombshell memoir. That's next.